بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب لما ضربه ابن ملجم والله في القرآن لا يسبقكم بالأمل به غيركم. صلوات الله محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Indeed, as it was announced, these are the nights which are known as the nights of power, the night of Qadr. And we look forward to these nights all year long. These are the nights in which it is recommended that we devote ourselves for the worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are the nights in which the special bounties and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are showered upon those who devote themselves. And also it coincides with the days of the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'minan, Imam al-Muttaqiyan, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And the tradition is that we begin from the night of 19th, which was a very difficult night for Hassanain, a very difficult night for Kulthum and Zainab, in which their father was struck by the sword of Ibn Muljim. And this was the event for which there were three individuals who had set out amongst the Khawarij to go ahead and finish certain individuals. And they said these three people, amongst them Amir al-Mu'mineen, second one being Amir al-Sham, and third one being Amr al-As. That Khawarij thought to themselves that if we get rid of these three people, Islam will prosper. These are the three people through which Islam is in the state which was in. And they were obviously looking at the battles that had taken place within the Islamic Ummah. And from therefore, three people set out, and their plan was to kill all three of them on the same night, which is the 19th of Ramadan. History tells us the person who was sent to strike Amir al-Sham struck him on his foot, and therefore Amir al-Sham was able to survive. The one who set out to kill Amr al-As in Egypt, he found out that Amr al-As did not show up to lead the Fajr prayer that day, so he survived. The only one who was successful in the task was Ibn Muljim la'natullahi alayh, who was able to strike Amir al-Mu'minan. But even then, the strike took a couple of days before the shahadat eventually happened. For that purpose, just imagine when a person is struck and when a person is going through the pain, excruciating pain, and is about to give his life. What are the words that should be on the tongue of that person? Just imagine when you and I face such individuals, and we have in our lives when people are about to die, what are the last wasaya and the wills of that person. And to make it even more exciting and interesting, imagine if you and I were to find out that was the last couple of days that we have of our lives, and these are the last few moments, what would we be saying? So prepare yourself to that last moment, because it could come about any one of us at any time. And that is one of the reasons and the philosophy of maut, that it is hidden from everyone. Nobody knows. In fact, people don't know بِأَيِّ أَرْضٍ تَمُوتُ, that in which land they will die. Nonetheless, when Amirul Mu'mineen was struck, he knew and had planned out from advance as to what he was going to say and what he was going to do. Amongst the things that was uttered out of the tongue of Amir al-Mu'minan was Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba, that by the Lord of this Kaaba, indeed I am successful. He did not say this when he struck Amr ibn Abd Wud in Khandaq. He did not utter these words when he lifted the gate in Khaybar. He did not utter these words when he was victorious in other battles such as Badr, Uhud, Hunayn, and so on and so forth. Imam uttered these words at the time when he struck in the mihrab and he's about to leave this world. He's a Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. Indeed, by the Lord of Kaaba, I'm successful. And then because Imam was struck and he died a couple of days after, he gave wasaya and will to his children, namely Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhim as-salatu was-salam. But if you look at the words of this wasaya, you say, why would Imam be addressing the future Imams in this way? Then we realize towards the end of this will, Imam says, it's for you and to whomever these words reach. And tonight these words are reaching us. I'm sure you've heard these words before as well. But Imam was addressing all of us. Amongst the things that Imam has said, aside from how to deal with my killer and so on and so forth, there were other instructions that were given by Imam as well. Amongst those instructions is this one instruction that I want to talk about tonight. Imam said, Wallah, Wallah, bil Quran. By God, as far as Quran is concerned. And then Imam said, La yasbiqukum bil amali bihi ghayrukum. Do not let anyone exceed you as far as acting upon this book is concerned. Do not let others take lead as far as performing the acts which are mentioned in this Quran for you. This was the first thing that Imam said. There were many other things that Imam had mentioned in Salat, regards to Salat, regard to a lot of other wajibat. But the first thing that he says, Wallah, Wallah, fil Quran. Just imagine the pain that Imam has for this book. And just imagine how this book was misused not too long ago in the life of Imam, when people in the Battle of Siffin were lifting this Quran on top of the spears, and how they were able to manipulate and mislead people out of that. Imam said, Wallah, Wallah bil Quran, la yasbikukum bil amali bihi ghayrukum. So here we understand that this instruction is for us. And even tonight, when we perform the amal in which we put the Quran on top of our heads, have you ever thought of as to the reason behind this action? We do it every single year. Moulana does a good job in leading the amal. And so we enjoy this amal in congregation and doing it without understanding the philosophy and the reasoning behind it. I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone. I'm sure some of you do know. But for the youngsters over here, that have you ever asked as to why do we put this Quran on our heads when we are performing this amal? One reason you can say is because it is in the riwayat. Masumeen have mentioned it in this way, that this is how you perform the amal. That you put Quran, first you open the Quran and you read this dua by looking at the mushaf, and then you take the mushaf and you put it on your head. There are certain intentions that must be taken when you put this Quran on top of your head. Amongst them is that you're putting this Quran on your head. Head is the ras, which is the top part of your body. This is where your aql is. This is where your brain is. This is where, the process of thinking is. So you should be making the intention that, oh Allah, when I place this Quran on top of my head, make my aql be ta'abe and obedient to this Quran. When I place this Quran on top of my head, oh Allah, make my aql be mixed with the teachings of this Quran. And then don't just take this Quran solely according to that slogan, Hasbuna Kitabullah. And that is the reason why I recite the names of 14 Masumeen while we have this Quran on top of our head. Saying that this Quran by no means is enough if you do not recite the names of those 14 infallibles alongside with it. And so the combination of putting this Quran on top of your head, so that, oh Allah, my aql is ta'abe of this Quran, and then the recitation of the names of 14 Ma'asum alongside with it, is the complete combination that we are following the path according to what Prophet has said, Inni tarikum fikum uthaqalain, kitabullahi wa itrati ahlul bayt. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And therefore you look at it that these individuals are not ordinary individuals. These are the people who are at the peak of perfection. And therefore we see in Arabic we have two words. We have a word called kamal and we have a word called tamam. Tamam would translate in English as complete, whereas kamal would translate in English as perfect. A lot of things that are complete not necessarily are perfect, but everything that is perfect is indeed complete. So you might look at something, the first eye that you lay upon it, you might say, that's perfect. That means it's complete from all ends, and it has reached that level, now you're calling it to be perfect. And you can give example in this regard to many things. For example, if there's a building, which are different materials are being used, namely wood, steel, cement, or other thousands of materials that we do not know. And when this building is built, for example, this masjid is ready, is complete. You say it's complete, but it's not perfect yet. The perfection of the masjid comes when there's someone who stands in this masjid and performs the salat. The purpose for this masjid is created so that salat is performed in it. Only then this masjid becomes what? Perfect. So here we see there's a difference between tamam and kamal. And to understand this concept even better, and I don't want to get you involved at this late hours of the night in difficult philosophical discussions, inshallah, I'll come towards the point and hopefully conclude it sooner than I anticipate so that we can go ahead and perform the amal. That when you look at this ayat of Quran in which Allah uses both of these words together, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. The word kamal is used in it and the word tamam is used in it. But where does Allah use the word kamal and where does Allah use the word tamam? This is where the difference lies. Allah says, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. Deen is something which reaches its perfection. Because it's not a materialistic thing. It's a spiritual thing. That Prophet, what is deen? The tenets of deen, the religion, all of the wajibat in it, and all the things that are associated with it. When they are being performed, deen is that's it, kamal. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. But when it comes to the materialistic gains, He says, Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. When it comes to my favors onto you, which includes a lot of these materialistic things, yes, I have completed my favors onto you. So here we understand the difference between the two, that kamal is in those things which are immaterial, whereas tamam is in those things which are materialistic. And that's why we consider masumeen to be at the stage of kamal. Kamal mean being perfect. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The discussion that I wanted to have tonight, since Imam is giving us this instruction about Quran, Wallah, wallah fil Quran. La yasbikukum bil amali bihi ghayrukum. By God, this Quran, make sure you take care of it. Nobody should exceed you as far as the performance of the actions are concerned. We look at this Quran that is in front of us. We are the first ones to have done injustice to this Quran. We are, without looking at those who are now posing questions towards this Quran, namely non-Muslims and others, you and I are the first ones who have done dhulm to this Quran. Quran becomes a book of recitation during the month of Ramadan. Only that to some people, because of the tawfiq that Allah gives them. But outside of Ramadan, we hardly see that there's any emphasis put upon this Quran. But we see that Amir al-Mu'mineen, at the last moment of his life, his all hammu gham is, make sure you take care of this Quran. This is a book which we have done a great deal of injustice. Sometimes we do injustice by looking at those verses which are mutashabih, which are resembling other verses. Sometimes we do injustice by misinterpreting the verses of Quran. And sometimes we do injustice by completely neglecting this Quran and abandoning it. You say, who abandons Quran? If that was not the case, Prophet would not be making this shikayat in this holy book by saying, Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. Oh my Lord, on the day of judgment, Prophet would say this, my Lord, my people abandoned this book. If this was not true, Prophet would not be making such dua or would not be making such shikayat or complaint. So here it becomes our duty to look at this Quran, ponder over this book, and make sure that when we put this Quran on top of our heads tonight, this Quran becomes part of our body. This Quran becomes part of our flesh. This Quran becomes part of every single action because we put it on our ras, that every single thing that we perform in our life, Quran should be before that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So as I'm running out of my time, I'll only focus on one aspect of it. And that is the aspect of Quran in which you find misinterpretations in Quran. A lot of people have gone ahead and taken these ayat of Quran out of context. They use these ayat for their own benefit and they derive meanings out of it unnecessarily. As you see in the world, what is happening, how people are using this very book for their propaganda, using this book for their qital, using this book to justify the actions and the atrocities that they are committing. What happens to them in the end? Then many of us also, because someone is negatively using this book, we also distance ourselves from it as well. That should not be the case. When we look at this book, a lot of people use the ayat out of context. For example, one of the things that is raised as far as this book of Allah is concerned, they say, well, Quran gives the permission for men to marry more than once. The polygamy, the concept of polygamy is mentioned in Quran. This is one example. But when you mention this, there's no way for you and I to defend ourselves. Well, it's in Quran, it's Quran, what can we do about it? No, you go ahead and mention the background of it. That the only reason the verse 3 of Surah Nisa, which gives the permission to mu'mineen to take 2, 3 or 4, is not because to fulfill their desires and lusts. Rather, there was a reason behind why this command had come down. At that time in Arabia, when Muslimin were involved in many wars and battles were happening, a lot of these women were becoming widows. And when there were these widows in the society, there was the only one way of them to have a respectable life is for someone else to go ahead and marry them. A lot of people were already married, so this ayat of Quran came down saying, if you're already married, go ahead and take another from these widows. The ayat is very explicit as far as that is concerned. From these widows, take another one. But make sure that you do adalat with them. Make sure you treat them with complete justice. But if you fear that you will not be able to do justice with them, then wahidatan. That's the ayat of Surah Nisa, verse number 3. One place we see the Quran is giving us the instruction, you go ahead and do it with the condition of justice and adalat. But then at another place, Quran goes out and tells us that you will never be able to do justice. وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ. You will never be able to do justice, even if you try your level best. So in other words, completely shutting down the door as far as polygamy is concerned. While the ayat in Quran is there, but there's a historical background that is attached with it. If Muslimin are misusing this ayat to fulfill their desires, you do not go ahead and blame Islam and you do not go ahead and blame Quran. This is not what the instructions of Quran are telling us. Are very clear in this regard. The ayat is there, this is the historical background of it, but then there are certain conditions that have to be met. And then someone might say, well, then why is it that Quran is saying be adil, and then at another place saying you cannot be adil? Isn't that a contradiction in Quran? This is where Quran is only put on the head and the names of Masumin are not recited, then you will make that mistake. But because we put Quran on our head and we recite the names of Masumin, we do not say that the Quran has any sort of contradiction in it. We say no, when we refer to Masumin, they say you can be adil and just when it comes to giving them equal share, but you can never be adil and just when it comes to your love and affection towards them. And therefore, there's no contradiction when it comes to as far as this Quran is concerned. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so therefore, people have used these verses to go ahead and unnecessarily misinterpret the verses of Quran. Then there are other occasions as well where we see people use the verses of Quran, and that is the reason Imam is saying to us what? He's saying, Wallah, Wallah fil Quran, la yasbiqukum, and I keep repeating this so that we memorize it. La yasbiqukum bil amali bihi ghayrukum. That lest anyone goes ahead and performs things that you should be doing as far as this book is concerned. Unfortunately, people come up and say that does this exist in Quran? That just shows our lack of knowledge. Where did you find out? Well, one of my Christian colleagues pointed this out to me. Shameful is the act that your Christian colleague is coming and instructing you as far as your own book is concerned. Moulana, do we have these ayat in Quran which talk about killing people and slaying them until they're submissive? Yes, these ayat are there in Quran. Why are these ayat there in Quran? Don't say the word why. Look at the reason behind that these ayat are there. A person who's not looking for an explanation or just want to use these ayat for misinterpreting and for own propaganda, they will not go deep into it. But it's your duty to go ahead and look into it or ask someone, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those who are Ahl al-Dhikr. If you do not know, there's no shame in asking. Why are these Quran ayat in their Quran which says, run after these kuffar and these pagans and these infidels, kill them, slay them until they're submissive? Wow, why are these ayat in Quran? That just gives a very wrong image of Islam. Again, you go back and you look at the background as to when this ayat was revealed. There was a specific reason why this ayat was revealed, and only then it was applicable. Not today, not 1.6 billion Muslims in the world are looking after this ayat, that we go ahead and kill every infidel that we find. We go after kill every unbeliever that we find around us. Is that the case? No. There was a reason, there was proper context of revelation of every verse. This particular verse was revealed after the peace treaty was made between mushrikeen of Makkah and the Muslimin of Medina. There was a pact so that they would be able to move around the city with ease, without any difficulty, without having to carry all of their aslaha and their weaponry, so they can go around the city. Imagine, over here you're living in this part of the world and you always have to carry a weapon with you. How difficult would that be? But with the events that are taking place over here, it seems like everybody is carrying a weapon, and government does not want to budge as far as the passing of the bill is that to ban these weapons. But nonetheless, that's another debate for another time. We see that this ayat was revealed for a proper context. Go after these people, because Islam was at a fragile state at that point. Islam was still taking baby steps at that point. They did not have a great deal of resources at that time, and that too also became the reason for Battle of Badr. But nonetheless, over here, they do not have great deal of resources. Now when they're enjoying this immunity to not be able to not be attacked by someone when they're ambushed, what do you expect Allah to tell these people? Go after it, run after it, kill these people, take back what belongs to you. But then when Islam progressed towards the end of the life of Rasulullah, we see that the tone changes completely. Why? Now Islam has established itself, its ground. This is where we read in the hadith of Prophet in which he says, Al-affu amman zalamaka. Forgive the one who has been zalim to you. Wal-ihsanu ila man asa ilayka. Be kind to the one who was unkind to you. And give to the one who deprived you. And join ties with the one who has disconnected his ties with you. This is what the Islam wants from us at the moment, not those verses. So people in whose hearts there's sickness according to Quran will cling on to those verses. Inshallah, tomorrow night, if I have time, we will go in the details of ayat muhkamat and ayat mutashabih, looking at it from the perspective of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. I wanted to speak more and take you into some more other explanations as far as this contradictions are concerned. But running out of my time, I'll bring towards a conclusion. That this is where our duty is, that Imam is speaking to us in this way. Imam wants us to look at this Quran and not just make it to be a book which is used in the month of Ramadan. Not to just make this book to be something which is used when you're traveling, not to just for security or safety purposes, but rather this book, when you put it on top of your head, becomes part of your life, becomes part of your flesh, becomes something that you start your day with, becomes something that you end your day with, becomes something that you take instruction from for every single thing. And that's why we see that the mu'jizah which was seen in the plains of Karbala, mu'jizah that Imam Hussein portrayed in the streets of Kufa, is the recitation of this Quran even after the Shahadat. I want to bring you close to this night though. It's a very difficult night for all of Mu'mineen, but it's a very difficult night for a few children of Amir al-Mu'mineen. There was a story that Imam was sitting with Asbagh ibn Nabata, and they saw a horseman coming towards them. When that horseman got close to Imam and Asbagh, Imam asked him, "Where are you from? Seems like you're from outside." He said, "Yes, I'm from Balad al-Sham." Imam said, "Do you want to tell the reason that you have come here for, or do you want me to tell you the reason that you have come here for?" He said, "Imam, you go ahead and tell." Imam said, "Your Amir offered 10,000 dirham for whoever kills me, Ali ibn Abi Talib." There was a person who got ready to do so. He said, "I'll do it." But next day when he went home, he said, "How can I kill the father of Hassanain?" He went back and he regretted it. Your Amir raised the price. He said 20,000 dirham for whoever takes the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Another man got up. He said, "I'll do it." But the next day when he was thinking about it, he said, "How could I take the life of the father of Zainab and Kulthum?" And then he also regretted. Your Amir raised the price, saying 30,000 dirham for anyone who takes the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is when you, who belongs to the tribe of Himyar, you agreed to it, and that is the reason that you have come here for. He said, "Yes, you're absolutely right. That is the reason." Imam said, "What is your intentions now?" He said, "I regret it as well, and I do not intend on pursuing with my intentions." When Imam heard this, he ordered Qambar, "O Qambar, take care of this man. O Qambar, provide him for this way back, whatever he needs it. O Qambar, take care of all of his needs while he's staying over here in this city. Just 1 second, just look at it, this whole discussion, just one point out of it. There's a man who had ill intentions to kill Amirul Mu'mineen. But the moment he's munsarif and he does not want to pursue, how does Imam treat him? You and I are followers of Amirul Mu'mineen. Someone has su'e zan towards us. Someone has ill intentions towards us, but yet they do not perform that thing. We do not keep holding the grudge. Right away, as soon as this person said, I do not want to perform this act anymore, Imam said, oh Qambar, make sure that you provide for him. Provide food to him, provide shelter to him, provide all the means for him to return back to his hometown. This is how Amirul Mu'mineen is dealing with people. If over here we do anything, don't think that it is done to look at some people or there's any sort of ill intentions behind it. No, everything is done with good intentions over here. No one in particular is behind that. But then coming down to the event of this night was very difficult. We see that Imam is in the house of one of his daughters. Namely, they mention he was in the house of Kulthum. But Imam had this iztirab. Imam was anxious this night. And by God, this anxiety was not for the fear of death. Because Amirul Mu'mineen said to Ali, death is more dear than a child to the chest of his mother. This is how death to me is. So I'm not afraid of death. But Imam is anxious this night. Daughter asks Imam, oh Baba, why do I see you in a state that I have never seen you before? Imam breaks the fast in the house of Kulthum. And then Imam seems anxious all night. Obviously, every daughter who would see her father in this way would also get worried. Asked question, Imam says, there's something about this night. It seems like that I will be meeting my Rabb very soon. I will be meeting my beloved very soon. And I think that is the reason I'm anxious this night. I can't wait for this night to be over. But when Imam wanted to leave when Kulthum felt that there was some sort of danger, she prevented Imam from leaving the house, saying, oh Baba, tonight don't go to the masjid. Stay inside the house. Maybe there's something ill that about to happen to you. Imam says, no, this is the reason behind all of this. He sees even the ducks in the house. He sees all the other animals in the house when they were making these voices and these sounds which they had never made before. Imam said, this is all indication that what I'm going for is about to happen. Imam ﷺ sets his foot outside. He goes towards the Masjid-e-Kufa. When he enters the masjid, Imam, as his routine was, wakes up the people who were inside the masjid. So go ahead and perform the salat. This is not the place for you to sleep. This is the place for you to go ahead and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even riwayat mention that Imam wakes up his own enemy. Imam wakes up Ibn Muljim as well. When Imam had done that, Imam goes out. Riwayat are different in this regard. Some riwayat say this happened outside of the masjid. Some riwayat say no, this happened inside the masjid. Some riwayat say that Imam had not performed the prayer, this happened. Some riwayat say that Imam was about to perform the salat. Some riwayat say that this was the salat of nawafil. Some riwayat say this was the salat of fajr. But nonetheless, whichever salat it was, however it was being done, Imam performed this salat-e-nafilah when he is going into the sajda, and when he raises his head from the sajda, this is where the sword which was poisoned by Ibn Muljim, it strikes Imam onto his head. As soon as he was struck with this sword, the words that came out of the tongue of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of Kaaba, Ali ibn Abi Talib is successful. Imam falls to the ground. His enemy is apprehended. Imam, when he sees the situation, the first things that he said to his enemy, have I not been a good Imam to you?